Hi. Good evening. I'm Judy Roth. I'm going to be moderating the debate tonight. And before we start, why don't we all stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The League of Women Voters and the Sag Harbor Express welcome you to this debate between the incumbent, Senator Ken LaValle, and his challenger, Mr. Greg Fischer. The League is a trusted, nonpartisan, political national organization. What that means is that we do not support candidates, we do not support parties, but we work to involve ourselves and the community in educating people about the issues and in working on issues which are important to the community. We're very respected for this, particularly for these debates that we run and for preparing the educational materials that we have. And on the table out there, we have our voter's guide, which tells you who is in office and different levels of government and how to contact them. We have a guide on to the proposition about the CPF fund, which is coming up on the November ballot, and that talks about whether we should or should not extend the life of the Community Preservation Fund and also expand the use of some of that fund for working on water, clean water issues. We also have, and that, the Proposition 1, it's the only proposition, is on the back of your ballot. And we also have sample ballots over there. And some of the things that we also have running justice to the Supreme Court, county court judge, family court judge, congressional election, state senator, assembly, town justice, as well as United States senator, and of course, president. So there is no taping or audio taping of this event except for CTV, which is authorized by the League to do this, and they provide a disc to LTV so that it can be seen by our East Hampton audiences. And it's also available on the League's Facebook page and on our website, www.lwvh.org. So,
Judy, the website is LWV Hamptons.
oh, sorry, LWV Hamptons, okay. And as we all know, when you do a debate of this type or any of our meetings, it takes many hands to help work these things out. And for our debates, it starts with our Voter Services co-chairs, Ann Marshall and Carol Miller. And we want to thank them and everyone else who was involved in doing this. And especially to thank Kelly Harris, the director of the Bridgehampton Library, because the Bridgehampton Library stepped in at the last moment when we couldn't hold a debate at the Senior Center. Julia Kaiser and Pat Asseri greeted you as you came in and gave you cards on which to write your questions. Kathy Peacock over here will pick up your cards or hand other cards to you for you to write your questions. And please note when writing your questions that they should be addressed to both candidates. So they're issue-oriented and addressed to both candidates. The panelists asking the questions are Catherine Manu, co-publisher and editor of the Sag Harbor Express, and Judy Samuelson, co-president of the League. They will be asking questions from the audience, from the League, from the Express, and they will identify who is asking that question. The League co-chair, League chair of the Government Committee, they're out there and kind of way in the back, Estelle Gelman and co-president Judy Samuelson, Gloria and Burke, will be reviewing the questions on the card. And they do what's called vetting. Vetting means that we don't silence anybody or tell anyone not to ask anything, but we want to be sure that the questions are not duplicates, that they are questions that reflect really what the audience wants to hear, and that they are issue-oriented. So please keep that in mind when you're composing your questions. Barbara McClancy of the League is our trusted timer, and you gentlemen will be keeping your eye on what she shows you, because if you don't, then I will jump in. And we want to welcome our candidates. They are Senator Ken LaValle and Mr. Gregory Fischer. They're both running to represent us in our 1st district in the New York State Senate. They have agreed to some rules to be followed for the debate. Each of the candidates will have a 2-minute opening statement. Then they will be asked a series of questions, and they will have 2 minutes, is that right now? To answer each question. They're not permitted to interrupt each other, unlike on some other debates that we've all seen. And but they can rebut each other. And by rebutting, they have this red card. Hold that up. And they will hold that up, and they have 3 opportunities to raise that red card. And then they have 1 minute for each rebuttal. If time allows, they can each ask each other a question and then offer a response to that. And then they will each have 2 minutes to make a closing statement in the reverse order that they did the other. Oh, I've just gotten a note that it's LTV that is taping, not CTV. So I should have known that Charles wasn't here, and that was why. Okay. For the audience, no taping, no interruptions, no verbal reactions, and we hold the applause until the end. And the reason for that is so that people can hear what's being said and that we're not wasting a lot of time. And please remember to shut off your cell phones. And since Senator LaValle arrived a little late, we're going to do the point to us. Right. Okay. No, I don't know how to do this.
Do I get demerits for being
You
few?
get to go first because heads or tails?
Heads.
It's tails, okay. So Senator LaValle will do the opening statement.
Okay.
You can do it here or there. There.
Can I use this, or?
Yes, you can.
Okay. One of the things about being a public official is that you have to be a good listener, you have to be a good communicator, and you have to make sure that you are serving the people of the district that you represent. So I've come up, and a lot of people know this, that I say 1st district first, because the feelings of the people in the 1st district are paramount to how and what I do in your representation. As you listen to people, it can be from crosswalks here in Bridgehampton to the CPF that we talked about as the original sponsor of the CPF. We now feel we have a new challenge, and that is water quality, both our groundwater and our surface water that so many people depend upon for a living. School taxes are very, very important. So state aid to education is critically important, and the tax cap is critically important. We have saved in the 1st senatorial district some $500 million in taxes since the tax cap was enacted. Southampton Hospital, critically important to me. It's been a vision, and we are in the closing days of actually having that approved, that they will be integrated into the State University Hospital at Stony Brook. So healthcare being here in your reach is very important, and for the people in East Hampton to have a clinic in a number of years will be important.
Mr. Fisher?
Hi, I'm Greg Fischer. I have 4 children, 2 millennials, 2 younger children. I view myself as a stakeholder in the future of this district. I have 3 degrees in business. I've spent 35 years in serious business consulting, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Pete Marwick, plus many years owning my own firms, accounting firms, software firms. The theme for my campaign is to vote for a turnaround. Now, when you ask retirees what their priority is for retirement, it's moving. Moving is their priority. If you ask half the people on Old Long Island what their priority is, it's moving. They want to move. So something is wrong. Something is very wrong. We have an unsustainable financial paradigm for our government, and despite what aid we've gotten, it's more like we get a few cents back for the dollars we're being charged. I've done a bunch of investigations with Freedom of Information requests, so kind of doing work from the sidelines, and I found a lot of malfeasance. I'm getting people prosecuted. I'm getting them barred from contracting, and I would hope that being a senator would allow me to do a lot more of it. In some school districts, the non-compliance is over 90%, and they're submitting fraudulent invoices. They're hiring people without reporting who they are. We have some serious problems, and the oversight is failed. So I have a lot of innovative proposals for stimulating the economy. I'd like to see double-decking the Long Island Expressway. California's had double-decked highways for decades. I'd like to see the Cross Sound Tunnel to help that congestion. I'm focused on what it's going to take to have farmers keep their kids here. And if anybody asks about that later on, it ties to nitrogen reduction, and it's something I'd like to talk about. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming, and thank you for inviting me.
Okay. The first question will go to Senator LaValle.
One of the biggest challenges nationally, and certainly in the state of New York and on Long Island, has been contending with the opioid epidemic. What are some of the initiatives or funding opportunities on the state level that can help address this very serious issue?
Catherine, that's really a great question, and was like my #1 priority going to Albany this year. Found that a lot of my colleagues had the same thing. So the opioid and the heroin addiction knows no boundaries. No community is exempt. No class of people are exempt. It has touched and reached all sorts of people. So we got the governor. Governor made it a priority. We came together, passed a package of bills that a prescription can only be written for 7 days to deal with the opioid. Education of both pharmacists and physicians. Money to increase the number of beds that we need for rehabilitation. And lost my train of thought here, and I apologize for that. The heroin insurance, to make sure that people get rehabilitation for the number of days that they need. And that was a very key component in what we need. We needed the number of beds, we needed the insurance companies to approve our what people need. Education, critically important, and the one piece that we could not get is greater enforcement. We had a bill, 14 or younger, if a drug dealer sold to those individuals, that the penalties would be higher. We could not get the Democrat Assembly, who comes from the urban centers, to pass that measure. And it passed unanimously, not unanimously, but it passed with substantial number of votes.
Mr. Fisher?
I agree with Senator LaValle that this problem knows no boundaries, but it's a symptom. It's not necessarily a root cause kind of thing. It's a symptom of the despair in society, the economic problems we're having. With my 4 children, they are completely fearful of drugs. And I let them know from the first time they try, it could put them on the road to addiction. So they're definitely scared straight. The issue with the opioids that's systematic in the Senate is the Senate Committee on Heroin and Opioid Issues is almost exclusively Republican. If you check the website, they don't really, it's 80% Republican. They're not really allowing Democrats on there, especially New York City Democrats, where the issue needs to be covered more thoroughly. I believe the problem is really a mental health issue, though it does have an enforcement component required. So I agree that it should be treated as an epidemic, and we have to treat it very seriously. It takes down whole families. It doesn't just take down the one person who's using or abusing drugs. And I do agree also that the fast track to opioid addiction is legal drugs. And the various legal forms of opioids need to be controlled tightly. For that reason also, I believe that I did support medical marijuana, that I think it's, in some cases, it's a better solution than putting people right on opioids. It's not shown to be addictive the way the opioids are. It doesn't have its one-way ticket, because it's cheaper to go get heroin than it is to buy more pills for your opioid, for your Oxycontin, or it's cheaper to get street heroin. So it's a comprehensive problem, requires a comprehensive solution, but certainly Democrats have to be allowed to be part of that conversation.
Oh, you want to use one of your 3 cards?
No.
So the next question goes to Mr. Fisher.
Okay, what's your view on the single-payer bill that has passed the New York State Assembly twice, but the Senate has kept it in committee?
Yeah, healthcare is kind of a mess overall.